Is comprehensive sexuality education really important? Welcome to Nudist Take.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I just want to tackle a topic that has been trending, and not just now. I think for the longest, people have had discussions around comprehensive sexuality education from a religious standpoint, from a personal perspective, from values and morals and everything. And I think it's important for us to have this conversation looking at both sides and looking at why comprehensive sexuality education and why everyone needs to care about the future of our children. So this conversation has been had a lot, and I just want to also throw in my 2 cents in there. So I just want to give a disclaimer. I am very religious, I would say spiritual. I don't know, I always don't see the difference between being religious and being spiritual, so both. Also I've been in the reproductive health space for the last 10 years, and I think I have both sides. What type of arguments come from both sides? So I'll not try to be want to reflect everything, but I would just like to throw in my 2 cents from someone who's been in on both sides and has conversed with people from both sides. So what is comprehensive sexuality education? I think that is where people begin to get it wrong, or begin to be a little bit not on board with the whole concept. Is people think it's going to schools and teaching children sex. I don't know who do that in their right senses, and I don't know why we would get to that point. But I think as a society we have not been very open about sexuality and sex education, to a point that anything around sex education makes us really nervous, and we don't really want to face the truth. And so parents are not having these conversations, teachers are not supposed to have these conversations, religious leaders are not having them, everyone is not having these conversations, so children are left to their peers to be able to have conversations. My ideal thinking is that sexuality education needs to begin from home. Children need to be taught their sexuality, and it always goes back to age appropriate. Like, you have to tell a child something in a language that they can understand, because again, like, there are some languages that are maybe too advanced for them and they might not be able to understand. And so age appropriate sexuality education must begin from the home. But because it is not happening in the home, there is a curriculum for it, which to me is sad, that we have to have curriculums and develop these sort of conversations, because someone has failed and someone has dropped the ball. And a lot of times it's our hypocrisy that leads us here, because a lot of times we want children to be able to learn these things off of themselves, and so they have their peers to learn from, and they have so many other people to learn from that don't really have the right information as well. Having been in this space, I'll give you two cases that I have dealt with. One is a girl who came to me and told me I had sex without knowing that was sex, and that to me was disturbing. Like, she thought they were playing and they were actually really having sex. No one had had a conversation with this young lady about sex and about what sex is, and about every other thing that they need to know, because knowledge is really power, and if people don't have knowledge, people operate in a vacuum, and if people operate in a vacuum, they are bound to make a lot of mistakes. So she had sex without knowing she was actually having sex. And then the second case is, in Homa Bay, I met her 21-year-old grandmother. So she gave birth at 10 and her baby gave birth at 11. And to me, that's a failure. We are defiling children, and we are making children to have more responsibility than they ought to have. Yet on the other side, we are very afraid to talk about conversations that really matter, because we are exposing children. And at the end of the day, what is the danger of telling children basic things like If abstinence is what you want to be able to push, it's fine, push abstinence. What we need to also be cognizant of is these teenage pregnancies, and some of these cases are as a result of Romeo and Juliet relationships. Clearly these children are having sex, and I think that is one of the things that we need to confront as a society. We cannot continue to bury our heads under the sand, in the sand, and just wish the topic of sex away, because it's not going anywhere. Children continue having sex, whether you like it or not, they will, unless they don't want to, which some do not have. So I'm not saying all children have sex. So some have, some don't. But the truth is there's some that are having sex. Arming them with information about what to do is important. Arming them with information on why abstinence is important is important. Arming them with information about if you're raped, this is what you need to do is important. If Uncle so-and-so touches you inappropriately, this is what you need to do. That conversation needs to be had. If your child doesn't want to sit on someone's lap, don't force them to sit on anyone's lap. We must begin to have conversations and break them down in form of what is consent. Am I even really in charge? Because a lot of times we have these conversations in harsh tones, but then our actions are very different from what you're trying to push. So on the one hand, we are telling girls that your voice matters and it's important for you to say what you want to say. On the other hand, we are forcing them to sit on uncle so-and-so laps. Yet they don't want to. They're not comfortable going to visit uncle so-and-so, but we force them to. But on the other hand, we talk to them about consent. So sexuality education is just all those things that I've mentioned. It's information, it's what's consent, it's what to do, it's arming your children with the power to be able to have the knowledge on their finger points. Because one of the things that you need to confront as a parent is when there is an information gap, someone will feel it. And a lot of times the children are being taught about sex by their peers who know nothing. So there are a bunch of people who know nothing and they're teaching each other about nothing. And you get to a point that a child tells you that I was told that if I have sex standing up, I won't get pregnant. So these are what they're teaching each other. And so at the end of the day, I think it's important for us to confront that sexuality education is important. Age appropriate, but it is important. Because every single time that information lacks, someone fills in the vacuum. And so your uncles are telling your daughters that if you have sex with me standing up, you won't get pregnant. And they're buying it. Your children are having sex while playing and don't even know that is sex. They don't even know the repercussions of what they're doing. And you're burying your head in the sand, talking about how government wants to introduce things, or our government is out there saying, as we have values, we can't introduce these things in school. So my appeal to everyone is sexuality education is important. It's a right. Everyone has a right to information under our constitution. Arm your children with the truth before they are told lies. Arm your children with information so that they're able to make choices. And a lot of times, some of these things are done when you're not there. And it's the information your child knows that will help them out of that situation, or will make them to act better than they are. So I am a highly spiritual person who is in the reproductive health space, who believes that sexuality education is important. And I hope most of us and all of us will be open to having these conversations openly. Because even in the olden days, our grandmothers used to sit people down and talk about these things. That does not happen anymore. So you don't tell us that comprehensive sexuality education is a new thing. It is not. In our culture, even as Africans, there used to be a system of putting girls down and boys down differently and talking to them about sexuality. It's important to have this conversation. No one came here knowing things. And it's unfortunate that our children are learning by experiment and we keep on burying our heads in the sand. So my take is comprehensive sexuality education is essential, and I think everyone needs to have access.